Before start this video, please subscribe my channel and click on bell icon. Thanks.
Musicians love alter egos, and pop music is full of them. They serve a range of functions, from making the music tell a story to providing a flamboyant persona unencumbered by stage fright for an otherwise shy performer to embody. Some of the best music explores notions of identity, which is why some artists just can't resist adopting one. So sit back and tune in as we list 10 musical alter egos. Related, top 10 musicians who were ahead of their time. 10 Kiss. Paul Stanley explains how Kiss will continue after he and Gene Simmons retire. As always with these lists, there's plenty of room to quibble about what an alter ego is. One could argue that any musician who uses a stage name, writes songs from the point of view of a character, or just says, "I'm a different person when I'm on stage," is using an alter ego. Similarly, you may argue that a bit of grease paint does not an alter ego make. But, iconic as their makeup may be, the sheer base ridiculousness that is Kiss's onstage personas could not possibly constitute anything as conceptually lofty as an alter ego. Sure, each member of the group has a distinct character, and those characters even have names, but it's still just a stage costume. I'd be inclined to agree if it weren't for the fact that for almost 20 years now, Kiss has been openly discussing the prospect of the band continuing with none of its original members. The idea may sound like defeatist talk from geriatric rockers whose ability to command a stage and belt out the hits is waning. Still, back in 2005, when the idea was first mooted, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley were only in their 50s. For comparison, Mick Jagger was 79 when the Rolling Stones wrapped up their most recent tour. Could perhaps the Demon, the Dame, the Starchild, and the Catman personas be bigger than Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, and the other two? The other two were originally Ace Frehley, the Starchild, and Peter Criss, the Catman. In the early 80s, when Frehley and Criss were ousted from the band, their replacements, Eric Carr and Vinnie Vincent, were given their own alter egos, the Fox and the Ankh Warrior, sometimes known as the Egyptian Warrior, simply the Warrior, or the Wiz for some reason. However, the current other two, Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer, have adopted the classic Starchild and Catman personas, setting Kiss up as a concept in and of itself with a stable set of characters played by an ever-changing troupe of actors. Then add in the decades-long media series that cast Kiss as superheroes, including a comic book and the 1978 movie Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. Or the time Kiss teamed up with Scooby-Doo, and it only reinforces the idea that we're talking about creations much bigger than four mortal men. 1. 9 Chick, Mariah Carey. The story of Mariah Carey's secret rock album. This story is as simple as it is strange. In 1995, Mariah Carey wanted to make an alternative rock/punk album inspired by bands like Hole, Garbage, and Sleater-Kinney. And that's exactly what she did. Someone's Ugly Daughter was recorded secretly during the sessions for her fifth album Daydream. Her plan was to release it under a pseudonym, certain the world would eventually work out she was behind it. However, Sony Music replaced her vocals with another singer, suppressed any connection to Carey, and released it under a smaller subsidiary. They even changed the name of the band that Someone's Ugly Daughter was credited to from Eeltree to Chick, an uninspired ad man's idea of what a Riot Girl band might be called. It sold 550 copies. Someone's Ugly Daughter remained forgotten for 25 years until Carey revealed its existence in her 2020 memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey. she didn't name the project, but her online fan club, the Lamely, because, of course, tracked it down, and soon enough, copies were going for $800 on Amazon. As much as it saddens me to say, I think Sony's shenanigans were for the best. 1995 just wasn't ready for a Mariah Carey alternative rock album. With lyrics like "I'm locked inside a closet, dripping like a faucet, twisted like a sausage, someone's ugly daughter" reads like a parody of 90s alt-rock. Nowadays, we'd read it for what it is, a goofy, loving parody. A self-parody as well, because she clearly related to the genre. But 1995 would have read "Someone's Ugly Daughter" as a mocking salvo from an upstart diva in the interminable rock versus pop authenticity wars. Those internet sleuths who uncovered the truth behind "Someone's Ugly Daughter" also noted that the videos contained oblique Mariah Carey references, such as butterfly tattoos and a cameo by her dog, that would have been understood by those familiar with the MCU, Mariah Carey universe. 2. 8. Chris Gaines, Garth Brooks. The bizarre history of Garth Brooks' alter ego Chris Gaines. Speaking of 90s alt-rock alter ego projects, by the least likely people you could imagine. The irony of country music's obsession with authenticity is that the concept of authenticity is so nebulous it's BA. One person's good old-fashioned true country music is another person's modern pop crossover pap. So it's not surprising that Garth Brooks, the most bankable country music star of the 90s, was either authentic country's savior or its ruin, depending on who you spoke to. While many country stars before and since have embodied that duality, none have done so with quite the same intensity. In a genre that conflates crossover success with inauthenticity, Brooks's status as the #1 selling solo artist in U.S. history, ahead of Elvis, was bound to encourage detractors, especially as Garth Brooks gave his football stadium-sized audiences exactly what they wanted, a football stadium-sized rock show. Meanwhile, his Oshak schmaltz and dusty cowboy hat and boots image placed him comfortably in the country scene. Given that this son of the South image was his strongest link to the country music scene, it remains one of the music world's most enduring mysteries why he would change personas to Chris Gaines, an Australian emo alt-rocker. Gaines's look was a Halloween costume seemingly based on Goo Goo Dolls frontman Johnny Rzeznik, with shades of Elliott Smith thrown in. But it may also have been based on fellow country music star Keith Urban, which would explain the decision to make Gaines Australian, although Urban is from New Zealand, not Australia. The plan was for Gaines to star in a movie called The Lamb. The movie never materialized, however. Gaines was still the subject of a VH1 Behind the Music mockumentary, which told his comically tragic, fictitious backstory, including a near-fatal sex addiction. His battle against a forest fire armed only with a garden hose, and the time he drove his car off a cliff, necessitating full facial reconstruction surgery. Chris Gaines's body of work was limited to an appearance on Saturday Night Live and a single album, The Life of Chris Gaines. Confusingly, the album was released as Chris Gaines' greatest hits in some markets, but then, almost every aspect of the short-lived Chris Gaines saga is confusing. I dare say those who lived through it have their doubts that it really happened. 3. 7 Reuben and the Jets, Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, the story of Reuben and Frank Zappa art-bound cassette. Frank Zappa fan thinks you just haven't heard the right album, declared The Onion back in 2004. With a discography running to 62 studio albums in his lifetime, an equal number of posthumous albums, and a style that fuses proto-punk psychedelia, stately jazz fusion instrumentals, and novelty comedy tracks, Frank Zappa's work is utterly impenetrable by all but the most dedicated fans. There may very well be a right Frank Zappa to get non-fans hooked, but good luck finding it. Cruising with Reuben and the Jets and its singles, however, achieved some radio success before it was revealed to be the work of Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. The project was a tribute to 50s rock and roll and Chicano doo-wop, and therefore may just well be straightforward enough to be the right Frank Zappa album. Even if it was an installment in a series of albums with such titles as Lumpy Gravy, We're Only in It for the Money, and Uncle Meat. As time went on, Cruising with Reuben and the Jets' legacy took a turn for the even stranger. Frank Zappa held a listening party at his Laurel Canyon home where he floated the idea of launching Reuben and the Jets as a real band. All he needed was a Chicano doo-wop singer with the first name Reuben. Incredibly, the search for such a person was a short one. Prolific performance artist, sculptor, and activist Reuben Guevara Jr. lived a previous life fronting the doo-wop group, the Apollo Brothers. Thus, under Guevara's leadership, the fake band invented as a last-ditch attempt by Frank Zappa to get his cruddy music on the radio became a real band that made 2 more albums, with Zappa only behind the boards for the first. Side note, Reuben Guevara Jr. later developed his own alter ego. In 1990, he adopted the middle name Funkawaddle, a persona born of his experimental theater works. Funkawaddle is the Neo-Chicano Aztec god of funk. Thanks for watching. Credits to listverse.com. Please subscribe my channel for more videos.